Good morning. Hey, how are you guys? And I thought she'd come in and read you another story this morning, more from the Tales of Peter Rabbit. And the second one we're going to read this morning, it's going to tell us all about the tale of Benjamin Bunny. So I want to say good morning to Elijah and Thad and Marie and Anna and Eden and Isaiah and Seth and Olivia and Gabriel and Emmett and Elliot. Emmett and Elliot are joining us. So it's good to have you, Emmett. It's good to see you, Elliot. I hope you're having a good day. So here we go. Beatrix Potter, the tale of Benjamin Bunny. One morning, a little rabbit sat on a bank. He picked his ears up and he listened to the trip-trot of a pony. The gig was coming along the road, and it was driven by Mr. McGregor. And beside him sat Mrs. McGregor in her very best bonnet. Bonnet's a hat, guys. An old English word for hat. Bonnet. It's kind of a funny word, isn't it? As soon as they'd passed, little Benjamin Bunny slid off onto the road and set off with a hop, skip, and a jump to call upon his relations who lived in the woods at the back of Mr. McGregor's garden. So there he goes. He's going for a visit. You know he's going to visit? That wood was full of rabbit holes, and in the nearest, sandiest hole of all lived Benjamin's aunt and his cousins, Flopsy, Mopsy, Cottontail, and Peter. Old Mrs. Rabbit was a widow, and she earned her living by knitting rabbit wool mittens and muffatees. Now, what's a muffetee? Have you ever heard of that before? Well, they were round things that you could stick your hands in, and it would circle them all around and keep them really warm. Those were called muffs. Okay. I once bought a pair at a bazaar, and she also sold herbs, rosemary tea, and rabbit tobacco, which is what we call lavender. Lavender's a flower and it smells really good. Little Benjamin did not very much want to see his aunt. Oh yeah. But he came around the back of the fir tree and nearly tumbled upon the top of his cousin Peter. There they are. Peter was sitting by himself. He looked poorly and was dressed in a red cotton pocket handkerchief. "Peter," said little Benjamin in a whisper, "who has got your clothes?" See, Peter's sitting there in a handkerchief. Do you know what that is? It's a piece of cloth that people used to blow their noses on and wipe their brows when it was sweaty. Peter replied, "The scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden," and described how he had been chased about the garden and had dropped his shoes and he dropped his coat. Little Benjamin sat down beside his cousin and assured him that Mr. McGregor had gone out for a ride and Mrs. McGregor was with him also. And certainly they were gone for the day because she was wearing her very best bonnet. So they're hatching a plot, right? You think they're going to get into trouble? I suspect so. Peter replied he hoped it would rain. At this point, old Mrs. Rabbit's voice was heard inside the rabbit hole calling, "Cottontail, Cottontail, fetch me some chamomile." Peter said he thought he might feel better if he went for a walk. So he and his cousin are going for a walk. They went away hand in hand and got upon the flat top of the wall at the bottom of the wood. From here they looked down into Mr. McGregor's garden. Peter's coat and shoes were plainly to be seen upon the scarecrow, topped with an old hat of Mr. McGregor's. You see way down here in the corner, there's his hat and his coat and his shoes from when he lost him the last story when he ran out of the garden. Little Benjamin said, "It spoils people's clothes to squeeze under a gate. The proper way to get in is to climb down a pear tree." Peter fell down head first, but it was of no consequence, as the bed below was newly raked and quite soft. Oh no, what are they doing? What are they doing? They're going into the garden. It had been sown with lettuces. They left a great many odd little footmarks all over the bed, especially little Benjamin, who was wearing shoes called clogs. Got little blue shoes on his feet. I didn't know rabbits wore shoes. Did you know rabbits wore shoes, Lizzie? Livy? How about you? Marie, did you know rabbits wore shoes? Maybe it's just a story. Little Benjamin said that the first thing to be done was to get back Peter's clothes in order that they might be able to use the pocket handkerchief. They took them off the scarecrow. There had been rain during the night. There was water in his shoes, and the coat had somewhat shrunk. Benjamin tried on the hat, but it was too big for him. See that little tiny bunny with that great big hat on? He looks silly, doesn't he? Then he suggested that they should fill the pocket handkerchief with onions as a little present for his aunt. Peter did not seem to be enjoying himself. He kept hearing noises. Sometimes when you're doing something you're not supposed to be doing, you hear noises, don't you? Benjamin, on the contrary, was perfectly at home and ate a lettuce leaf. He said that he was in the habit of coming to the garden with his father to get lettuces for their Sunday dinner. The name of little Benjamin's papa was Old Mr. Benjamin Bunny. The lettuces certainly were quite fine tasting. Yes, indeed. Peter didn't eat anything. He said he should like to go home. Presently, he dropped half the onions. He's not feeling so good, is he? I think he might be afraid. I think he's got good reason to be afraid. Little Benjamin said that it was not possible to get back up the pear tree with a load of vegetables. He led the way boldly towards the other end of the garden. They went along a little sunny walk on the planks under a sunny red brick wall. The mice sat on their doorsteps cracking cherry stones. They winked at Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin Bunny. Well, they got out, didn't they? You see the little mice down in the corner? Presently, Peter let go of the pocket handkerchief again. Uh-oh. And he dropped everything, didn't he? Yeah. This is what those rabbits saw around that corner. Little Benjamin took one look, and then in half a minute, less than no time, he hid himself. Peter and the onions under a large basket. What did they see? What's lying in the path? It's a great big cat. Great big cat lying in the path. Apparently bunnies are afraid of cats. The cat got up and stretched herself and came and sniffed at the basket. And then she sat down on top of the basket. Uh-oh. And the bunnies are under the basket. She sat there for 5 hours. I cannot draw you a picture of Peter and Benjamin underneath the basket because it was quite dark. And because the smell of onions was fearful. It made Peter Rabbit and little Benjamin Bunny cry. The sun got round behind the wood and it was quite late in the afternoon, but still the cat sat on the basket. You think she knows the bunnies are under there? Don't you think she could smell those onions? At length there was a pitter-patter, and some bits of mortar fell from the wall above. Oh. The cat looked up and saw old Mr. Benjamin Bunny prancing along the top of the wall of the upper terrace. He was smoking a pipe of rabbit tobacco and had a little switch in his hand. He was looking for his son. Do you remember what rabbit tobacco was? It was an herb. Don't smoke. Ugh. Old Mr. Bunny had no opinion whatever of cats. He took a tremendous jump off the wall onto the top of the cat and cuffed it off the basket and kicked it into the greenhouse, scratching off a handful of fur. The cat was too much surprised to scratch back. Wow! That is one brave bunny rabbit. When old Mr. Bunny had driven the cat into the greenhouse, he locked the door. Then he came back to the basket and took out his son, Benjamin, by the ears and spanked him with a little switch. Then he took out his nephew, Peter. They were being disciplined for doing something wrong, weren't they? And then he took out the handkerchief of onions and marched out of the garden. Do you see Benjamin? He's kind of rubbing his bottom because he got a spanking for doing something wrong. He'd been told and told and told, and so had Peter. When Mr. McGregor turned about half an hour later, he observed several things which puzzled him. It looked as though some person had been walking all over the garden in a pair of clogs, which are shoes. Only the footmarks were too ridiculously little. Also, he couldn't understand how the cat could have managed to shut herself up inside the greenhouse, locking the door from the outside. Well, that's just not possible, is it? No, but we know what happened, don't we? Yes, we do. When Peter got home, his mother forgave him because she was so glad to see that he'd found his shoes and his coat. Cottontail and Peter folded up the pocket handkerchief, and old Mrs. Rabbit strung up the onions and hung them from the ceiling with a bunch of herbs and the rabbit tobacco. The end. It's good to read to you guys today. I hope you're having a good day. Nana and Papa miss seeing you guys all the time, so I hope you enjoy these stories. And we're praying for you, and we want you to have fun with each other and to love on your mom and dad. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.